everybody switch to the PowerPoint presentation. So when I'm teaching the yoga part, then you can double click on my box, Kusuma Prasanna, and then you can see me enlarged, and then you can see me performing the yoga. So now I am going to start the workshop now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the session 2 of our workshop, Yoga and Modern Medicine. My name is Kusuma Prasanna, and I am a licensed yoga teacher. Those who have missed the last session, the session 1 of the workshop in January, which was on yoga and respiratory system, can go to the RKS Facebook page or can go to my Facebook page and view it. Today's session, we are going to explore yoga and cardiovascular system with the help of Dr. Shashi Prabhakar, who is a renowned cardiologist. We would both like to thank Richmond Kannada Sangha for giving us an opportunity to share this to the community. So, the goal of the workshop is to understand the ancient Indian practice of yoga and its philosophy in the background of modern medicine. What the modern doctors are telling about the human body, its physiology, its ailments, and its cures, our ancient yogis thousands of years ago knew this knowledge and have given us the practice of yoga as a way to improve our health and prevent diseases to both body and the mind. So today's workshop will run along this process. So first, Dr. Shashi Prabhakar is going to explain to you about the cardiovascular health. Then I will show you the Surya Namaskar or the sun salutations in 3 different ways. That is at the chair, at the wall, and on the yoga mat. And then Dr. Shashi Prabhakar is going to explain how the Surya Namaskar is beneficial to the heart. And then I'll show you the pranayama practices, the right nostril breathing, left nostril breathing, and the alternate nostril breathing. And then Dr. Shashi Prabhakar is going to tell you how pranayama helps for heart and the cardiovascular health. So now I want everybody to mute themselves. So now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Shashi Prabhakar, who is going to explain to you about cardiovascular health.
Good evening, everybody. Namaskara ellarigu. Most of you already know me. Just to reintroduce myself, I am Dr. Shashi Prabhakar. I'm an interventional cardiologist and I'm associated with the Bansacourse Mercy Health System. I practice at St. Francis Hospital in Midlothian as well as St. Mary's Hospital. I graduated from Bangalore Medical College and have been a practicing physician for 20 plus years. So today, I would like to thank Mrs. Kusuma for sharing this presentation so that we can bring it to you, as well as the RKS to give us the platform to bring this presentation to you. Let's start off with a quote. Swami Vivekananda many years ago said, "All the orthodox systems of Indian philosophy have one goal in view, the liberation of the soul through perfection, and that method is by yoga." I'm having trouble moving this thing. Give us 1 second.
How your heart works. Your heart is responsible for delivering blood to all parts.
So I'm going to start off with a video here, which explains the anatomy and physiology of the complex organ, the heart, which is the engine of the body. It's about a 4-minute video. So it sort of gives you a tour of what happens in the heart. So let's make this an interactive session. And if you have any questions, put it in the chat box. Dr. Nagesh is monitoring the chat box and he will group all the questions and we can answer them in the end. So here's the video, and I would advise you to go to a full screen so that you can view the video.
Parts of your body. It supplies oxygen and other nutrients where needed. Arteries carry oxygen-rich blood away from your heart to nourish your body. Veins carry oxygen-poor blood from your body to your heart. The pump. Your heart is actually 2 pumps that work side by side to move blood around your body. The right side of your heart pumps blood to your lungs to receive oxygen. The left side sends the oxygen-filled blood out to your body. Each side of your heart has 2 compartments or chambers. The top chambers are called the atria, and the bottom ones are called the ventricles. 4 valves act like one-way gates and keep blood flowing from one chamber of your heart to the other without moving backward. These are the tricuspid valve, the pulmonic valve, the mitral valve, and the aortic valve. The tricuspid valve and mitral valve are located between the atria and the ventricles. The pulmonic valve and aortic valve are located between the ventricles and the major blood vessels leaving your heart. When the atria become filled with blood, the walls of the chambers squeeze or contract. The blood gushes through the mitral and tricuspid valves into the ventricles. Once the ventricles are filled, the valves close. The muscles in the ventricles then contract, which forces open the pulmonic valve and the aortic valve. Blood coming out of the right ventricle goes to your lungs. Blood coming out of the left ventricle goes into the aorta and then to the arteries where it is distributed to all parts of your body. When the contraction ends and the ventricles begin to relax, the pulmonic and aortic valves snap shut. This action happens quickly and is what causes the familiar lub-dub rhythm called your heartbeat. The electrical system. The rhythm of your heart is controlled by a built-in electrical system. The SA node is where your heartbeat begins. It is sometimes called your heart's natural pacemaker. The SA node is located in the right atrium. It is made up of special pacemaker cells that send impulses to the AV node. The AV node is in the center of your heart and acts as a relay between the atria and the ventricles. When the SA node fires, the atria contract. Instantly, an impulse passes to the AV node. Once the impulse passes through the AV node, it travels down through nerve fibers to the bottom of the ventricles, causing the ventricles to contract and squeeze blood out of your heart. Your heart, like any muscle, requires its own supply of blood. The coronary arteries carry oxygen-rich blood to your heart muscle. Veins carry blood depleted of oxygen away from the heart muscle. Things to remember. Your heart is a large pump powered by its own electrical system. Valves help keep blood flowing from chamber to chamber and from chamber to the body in an organized fashion. Your heart helps to recycle blood by sending oxygen-depleted blood to the lungs to be refreshed and oxygen-rich blood back out to the body. What we have learned. The right side of the heart pumps blood to the body. True or false? The answer is false. The right side of the heart pumps blood to the lungs. Heart valves open and close in one direction. True or false? The answer is true. 4 valves act like one-way gates, keeping blood flowing from one chamber to the other without moving backward.
So I hope that was an informative video about the anatomy and physiology of the heart. So heart is a pump. It has its own electrical system. as well as it has got its own blood supply, because heart is any muscle, it requires blood supply for it to function. This diagram shows the same heart structure, which is cut in a vertical section. And just to reiterate, we have two upper chambers called the atrium, the two lower chambers called the ventricle, and tubes which come out of the heart, which are the aorta and the big pulmonary artery. So the blue colored area is the right side of the heart, and blood from the body comes back to the right side, goes into the lungs. And I think last session, Dr. Nagesh Kashina did an excellent job about explaining the gas exchange in the lungs. So the carbon dioxide and oxygen exchanges, the oxygenated blood, which is the pink or red color blood, comes back to the left side of the heart, goes into the left ventricle, and then comes out into this big tube which comes out of the heart. Usually the heart is the size of a fist, and it's located in your left side of your chest wall at a slight angle. So anything towards the right is called the right side, anything towards the left is the left side. So, why do we need to know about cardiovascular health? It is very important because, it causes various conditions, and there are many risk factors. And, stress is a very important risk factor. For cardiology, we have two big organizations. That is the American College of Cardiology and the American Heart Association. And if you go to the American Heart Association, you can see one of these web pages, and you can see a lady practicing yoga, and it says fight stress with healthy habits. I'm just going to go over the highlights of this. So what it says is, slow down, snooze more or sleep more, let worry go, laugh it up. This is the basis of all the laughing clubs or the nage kotas, where elderly folks do it in India all the time to decrease stress. Get connected, like how we are connecting today on Zoom. So as a community, get organized, practice giving back, do volunteer work, be active every day. That's a very important thing. Either exercise, yoga, walking, it gives you vitality, and just be active every day. And more importantly, also give up bad habits. If you're smoking, that is a very big risk factor. Give up smoking. Smoking and heart health are closely interrelated. And lean into things you can change. So what are the major risk factors? The major risk factors are high blood pressure or hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, obesity or being overweight, and having a lot of stress, inactivity, and bad habits like smoking, excessive alcohol consumption. So what is this blood pressure? So when the heart pumps, it comes into the blood comes out of the heart into this big tube called the aorta, and it requires a pressure to keep it open. And the tube has got elastic fibers in it, and as the blood pumps and the heart pumps the blood into the tube, it expands, and then it recoils and constricts again and sends the blood forward. The pressure in this tube is what is called the blood pressure, and the normal blood pressure is around 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. And as the blood pressure starts increasing, it starts causing problems. This is a cartoon showing the same about how the blood gets pumped out of the heart. The red blood comes out of the heart and goes into this big red tube called the aorta, and the blue blood, or the blue deoxygenated blood, comes back into the heart. So I'm going to share some statistics with you. The intention is not to scare you, but to make you aware of why we need to control all these risk factors. So the World Health Organization statistics say that hypertension or elevated blood pressure is a serious medical condition that significantly affects not only the heart, but the brain, the kidney, and causes many other diseases. The world's population is about 7.8 billion, and out of that, about 1.13 billion people worldwide have hypertension. It's called the silent killer, and most of them, 2/3, live in low and middle income countries. In 2015, 1 in 4 men and 1 in 5 women had high blood pressure. But more importantly, look at the statistics. Fewer than 1 in 5 have their blood pressure under control, and that's a big problem. According to CDC, that is Center for Disease Control Statistics, heart disease is the leading cause of death for men, women, and most racial and ethnic groups in the United States. One person dies approximately every 36 seconds related to some kind of cardiovascular disease. And this equates to about 655,000 Americans. That's 1 in 4 deaths is attributed to cardiovascular disease. Now, this diagram again shows the aorta and the wall of the aorta, which is the tube which comes out of the heart. So when the heart pumps, the blood enters the aorta and it expands because of the elastic fibers in the middle layer called the tunica media. And when it constricts or recoils, it sends the blood forward. And that's how it circulates around the whole body, with the heart being the engine or the pump, and comes back to the heart. And the cycle happens again and again from the time, from the time you're born till the end. This is a very important slide. Now, in the video, we saw that heart not only is a pump, but is also an electrical organ, as well as it has its own blood supply. So we have 3 major arteries which supply the heart muscle. And when there is a problem with one of the arteries, we start having chest pains and it causes heart attacks, and then the heart muscle starts to die. There are basically 2 mechanisms by how this happens. So this is a coronary artery, or one of the arteries which goes to the front of the heart. And if you take that artery when somebody is having a heart attack and cut it open and look at it, you can see this yellow colored structure. This is a cholesterol plaque. This is like basically sludge in a plumbing tube. And the formation of the plaque starts building when you're younger, by 20, 30 years old, and it starts building as we grow older. And suddenly this plaque decides to open up and rupture. When it ruptures, the body thinks that there's something happening over there, and it rushes all the cells to try to heal up the area. But inadvertently, what happens is it forms a clot. That is this purple and white structure which causes a clot. And when the clot forms, what happens? The blood supply is cut off and you start having severe chest pain. And that's where my expertise comes in as an interventional cardiologist. They activate they call us immediately, and we have to go in and try to figure out which vessel is closed off and try to open it. Now, the other mechanism this happens is when, if you look at this tubes, the first tube shows a nice blood flow, the blood cells flowing through. Then a lot of cholesterol plaque starts forming along the walls of the tube, and it encroaches upon the lumen as the cholesterol plaque starts building up. And then ultimately it becomes so narrow that no blood goes through, and then you can have a heart attack. So this is what happens when we go in and try to put a stent into those arteries to open it up. So what happens is we do what is called a heart catheterization, and we find out which vessel is blocked. We send a small wire down into the tube, and then we put a balloon on top of the wire, go to where the area is blocked off and open it up, trying to restore blood flow. And to keep the vessel or the tube open, we put in what is called a stent. A stent is like a scaffolding. If you think of the old ballpoint pens, there's a spring at the tip of it. It's basically like that. So it's crimped on a balloon, and we put the wire down, put the stent over the wire, and open up the balloon. The stent opens up and it lines the wall so it doesn't collapse back. Then we remove the balloon and leave the stent behind, keeping the blood flow going to the rest of the heart. Now I'm going to hand it back to Ms. Kusuma to go over the yoga session.
Thank you, Dr. Shashi. Now, you saw that what are the reasons that can go wrong with your heart. So yoga is one of the good type of exercises which is beneficial for your cardiovascular health. So there are some yoga poses like standing forward bend, extended triangle pose, bridge pose, chair pose, head to knee pose, which are good for the flexibility of the muscle, because as Dr. Shashi said, it is also a muscle. Then relaxation and sleep. So this takes care of your stress. So some of the poses like easy pose, supine spinal twist, child pose, legs up the wall, corpse pose, that is Shavasana, these all take care so that you can relax your body and get rid of stress. So yoga helps in maintaining a good cardiovascular health by reducing stress and anxiety. It lowers your blood pressure. It helps in lowering your cholesterol, good circulation of blood in the arteries, and it's a very helpful tool for smokers to quit smoking. As Dr. Shashi said, smoking and heart health don't go together. So today we are going to learn Surya Namaskar, the sun salutations. So why is this helpful for your heart? Because this is a total complete body workout from head to toe in few minutes. And this Surya Namaskar consists of 12 steps. And it usually is done in the morning sunrise or the evening sunset traditionally. But now with the busy lifestyles, whenever you can incorporate it in your life in the day, it is good enough. So you can do it at the time that is suitable for you. It's a set of 12 asanas, which is a complete body workout from head to toe in few minutes. One can do this according to their pace. So one can do them slowly or they can do it a little faster. And as you become efficient in learning all the 12 yoga poses, you can coordinate the breath also with the asanas. After a month, once the stamina builds up, you can start increasing the number of Surya Namaskars. So what are the 12 asanas that come in Surya Namaskar? So you first stand in standing position, that is mountain pose, and then you bend backwards, Ardha Chakrasana, then you do the forward bend, Padahastasana, then do the horse riding pose or the Ashwasanchalana, plank, then the child's pose, and then the cobra or the Bhujangasana, then the Ashtanga Namaskara, then the downward facing dog pose, the Adhomukha Svanasana, then again horse riding pose, Ashwasanchalana, then forward bend, then backward bend, and back to mountain pose. This 12 steps count for 1/2 Surya Namaskar for the right leg. So while doing the horse riding pose, you will take your right leg back first. So that constitutes Surya Namaskar for the right leg. Then you will have to repeat the same steps for your left leg. So that is, you do the horse riding pose by taking the left leg back first and then doing all these poses again. So together they will constitute as one Surya Namaskar. So as a beginner, maybe you can repeat it once more. And as you start becoming more and more efficient with the poses, then you can repeat it how many ever times you want. And at the same time, you can start coordinating your breath. Surya Namaskar increases your heart rate, but it doesn't make you tired because you coordinate it with breath. So easily you don't get tired when you're doing Surya Namaskar. But unlike running on a treadmill or something, Surya Namaskar is coordinated with the breath. And so you can repeat it many more number of times and your heart rate rises up. So it's a good conditioning for your heart. That's why once you do Surya Namaskar, it's always recommended to do Shavasana or the rest pose, corpse pose for 3 to 5 minutes so that your heart rate comes back to its normal rate. Since it has rised up, you want to give it some time so that it comes to the normal rate. So usually this Surya Namaskar, the traditional Surya Namaskar is done at the yoga mat. But some people have limitations. So even they can do Surya Namaskar sitting on a chair or taking the support of a wall and do the Surya Namaskar and reap the benefits of it. So that's why today I'm going to show you Surya Namaskar sitting on a chair and at the wall, and also traditionally how you do in the yoga mat. And one note of caution while doing this is, please do not push yourself to the final pose. And you should remember that asana should be, like according to Patanjali, it should be steady and comfortable. You don't have to excessively put pressure on yourself to reach the final pose. To reach the final pose, there are many factors involved, like how your body is structured, how your bones are structured, how flexible your muscles are. And it also depends from how long you are doing yoga. So when you see somebody doing yoga and they reach the final pose, it's not that they reach the final pose in their first week of class or so. They have been practicing it for years. So yoga is not a competition, and so please don't compare yourselves to others and take your own pace and listen to your body and do according to that. Otherwise, there are always chances of getting injured. So take your time. It may take months or it may take years for you to reach the final pose, but be patient. When you're attempting the pose, your muscles are getting exercised, they are getting strengthened and stretched. It's not that you're not getting any benefit because you're not doing the final pose. And so for Surya Namaskar, we always coordinate it with breath. So initially, don't worry about the breath. So initially, try to learn all these 12 poses. And as you become perfect in the poses, then you coordinate the breath with it. And in yoga, it is always whenever you bend backwards, you inhale. And whenever you bend forward, it is exhale. So remember that. Backward bend is inhale and forward bend is exhale. So now I'm going to show chair Surya Namaskar. So people with certain limitations like blood pressure issues, balance issues, back pain, knee pains, arthritis, so they can opt for doing the Surya Namaskar at the chair. So now you can click on my tab where you can see me and double click on it, so that then you can see me in full screen. No, they should be able to see. Let me go a little back. So take preferably a chair that is steady. I'm going to use my headset now. Now take a chair that is steady and preferably with no side arms. So it can be a plastic chair like this, or you can have a dining chair which has no side arms so that it will be easy for you to move. So first sit comfortably in normal position. So where your spine is tall and elongated. Now bring your palms to the heart center in Anjali Mudra. So this Namaskara is the Anjali Mudra. So now inhaling, raise your hands up and look to the ceiling. Exhaling, push your upper body towards the thighs, one vertebra at a time, and move your palms towards the ground. This is your forward bend or the Pada Hastasana. Then inhaling, raise your right leg up and catch your shin that is below your knees with both your palms and look back. If possible, you can keep the foot on the chair, but please listen to your body. Even if you can't keep it on the chair, it's okay. Just attempt to lift the foot off the floor and catch your below your knees and look up and bend back by making an arch in your spine. And then exhaling, bend yourself, your upper body forward as though you're going to touch your forehead to the knee. Then inhale and sit straight. Exhaling, drop your right foot to the ground and keep your hands to the side of your body. And then since we did the right leg, so this is the Surya Namaskar for the right leg. So still there are some more steps involved in this. So now lift the left leg up and catch your shin with both your palms, and inhaling, look towards the ceiling. Then exhaling, bend yourself forward as though you're going to touch the forehead to the knee. Then inhale, sit straight. Exhaling, drop the left foot to the ground and your hands beside your body. And then inhaling, raise your hands above and then look up towards the ceiling by making an arch in your spine. Exhaling, bend yourself forward one vertebrae at a time and move your palms towards the ground and your upper body towards your thighs. This is your Pada Hastasana. So how much ever you can bend, if you can bend this much, that is more than enough. So you do it according to your body limitations. And then inhaling, scoop your hands up and then exhale, bring your hands towards the heart center. So this is Surya Namaskar for your right leg. So now we'll do the Surya Namaskar for the left leg. Then only together it constitutes as one Surya Namaskar. So now inhale, take your hands above you and then look up. Exhaling, bend your upper body towards your thighs and take your palms towards the ground, or you can touch your toes, or you can touch the ground, or you can just remain wherever you can. And then inhaling, come up, and then exhale. And now inhaling, lift your left leg up. So this is Surya Namaskar for the left leg. So you're going to lift the left leg up, and inhaling, you look back. Exhaling, you bring your forehead closer to the knee. Then inhale, sit straight, and exhaling, drop the left foot to the ground. Now again, inhale and lift your right knee up, catch the shin with both your palms and look up. Exhaling, bend forward by bringing your head towards the knee. And then inhale, sit straight. Exhaling, drop the leg foot to the ground and hands beside your body. And then inhale and raise your hands up and look towards the ceiling. Exhaling, bend forward, bringing your upper body towards your thighs and bringing your palm towards the ground or till wherever you can reach. Then inhaling, raise your hands up. Exhale, bring your hands towards the heart center. So this is Surya Namaskar for the left leg. So together it constitutes as one Surya Namaskar. So maybe as a beginner, you can do once more. And as you start learning the poses, you can incorporate the breath. The inhale is when you bend backwards and exhale is when you bend forward. So anybody who can sit in a chair can practice this. So next, if you have practiced in the chair and you have been practicing for a while, and now you feel confident that you can stand, but still you need some support because you're still worried whether you need any support if you lose balance or you don't want to bend your knees too much, not bend your back, and you don't want to aggravate any of the pains and stuff, then you can use the wall. So here, stand in front of the wall with little distance between you and the wall. And so whenever you feel you're losing balance or you need some support, you can always catch the wall as your support. So now inhale and raise your hands up and make an arch in your spine and look up. This is your backward bend. Then exhaling, push your hips back and slowly bring your torso parallel to the ground, your upper body to the parallel to the ground, and hands on a shoulder level and look down. So if you don't have any issues like blood pressure issues or heart issues, and you can take your head below your knees, then you can go further and place your palms wherever you can reach on the legs, or you can touch your toes, or you can touch the floor in front of you. So this is your forward bend or the Pada Hastasana. Then inhale and scoop your hands up and place the palms on the wall and take your right leg back and bend your left leg at the knee. Make sure that the left knee doesn't cross the shin. So when you look down, you should be able to see your toes. So this is your Ashwa Sanchalana or the horse riding pose, the lunge pose. Then exhaling, move your left foot and join your right foot and press your palm against the wall and keep a straight back and look towards the wall. This is your plank or the Chaturanga Dandasana. Then bring your torso or your head down parallel to the ground. This can be your child's pose or the tabletop pose. And then inhale and bring your abdomen towards the wall and make a arch in your spine and look up. This is your cobra or the Bhujangasana. Then keep your palms little, maybe a palm distance up on the wall. If your palms are here, just move it maybe a palm distance and then push your hips back and look down. And now lengthen along your legs and press the feet firmly on the ground and the palms to the wall and look down. This is your Adho Mukha Svanasana or your downward dog. Then inhaling, bring your right leg forward and make a bend at your right knee. And here too, make sure the knee doesn't cross the shin. It should be perpendicular to the ground. So this is your Ashwa Sanchalana. And then slowly bring both your feet together and while exhaling, bend forward. If you have heart issues and blood pressure issues, stop here. Others can go further down and place their palms wherever they can reach their legs. Even if you can bend this much, that's more than enough. Slowly, as you keep practicing, you will notice yourself, you can keep moving further and you can touch your toes or the ground. But this will take a lot of practice and lot of months and years. And then inhaling, raise your hands up and look behind and look towards the ceiling, your backward bend. And then exhaling, bring your hands towards the heart center. So this is Surya Namaskar for your right leg. Now let's do the Surya Namaskar for the left leg. We repeat the same steps, but during the Asva Sanchalana or the horse riding pose, we'll take the left leg back and in the end, we'll bring the left leg forward. So now inhale and raise your hands up and look towards the ceiling, backward bend. Exhaling, push your hips back and bring your torso parallel to the ground. Those who don't have any issues of heart or the blood pressure,
If you can bend further and place your palms wherever on your foot. Touch your toes or the ground. And then inhaling, place your palms in front of the wall and take your left foot behind. And bend your right leg at the knee. Then exhaling, take your right foot behind and meet the left foot and keep a straight back and push the palms to the wall. This is your plank. And then you can bring your torso parallel to the ground. This is your child's pose. And then inhaling, push your abdomen towards your wall, making an arch in your spine and look up. Then exhaling, take the palm one distance on the wall, keep it one palm distance up, and then push your hips towards away from the wall and press the palms and also lengthen along your legs and press both the feet to the ground. This is your downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Then inhaling, bring your left leg forward and bend at the knee. And then exhaling, bend forward, forward bend, Pada Hastasana, whichever pose is good for you. And then inhaling, raise your hands up and look towards the ceiling, backward bend. Then exhaling, bring your hands towards your heart center. So this is your Surya Namaskar to the left leg. So together it constitutes one Surya Namaskar. So as a beginner, you can practice it once more. Once you have learned the poses properly, then you can inhale, exhale, depending on whether you're bending backwards, it's inhale. When you're bending forward, it is exhale. And then you can repeat the number of steps and you can repeat the number of counts to whatever level you are comfortable. So then now we will go for the Surya Namaskar at the mat. So this is the traditional Surya Namaskar usually people do, but I showed you the variation of this on the chair and the wall. So initially, those who are not familiar with yoga can start with this and then slowly transition to the mat. So now your palms at the heart center in Anjali Mudra. Inhale, raise your hands up and look towards the ceiling, backward bend. Exhaling, push your hips back and bend forward, trying to bring your palms towards the mat. Forward bend or Pada Hastasana. Then take your right leg back and put your right knee down and make a bend in your left leg. And this is your Ashwa Sanchalana or the horse riding pose. And then take the left leg back and then make a straight back and look behind and drop your hips down. This is your plank, Chaturanga Dandasana. And then put your knees down and move your hips towards your heels and bring your head towards the mat. This is your child pose. And then slowly bring your chest towards the mat, and chin can be on the mat, or your forehead can be on the mat, and the hips are off the mat. This is the Ashtanga Namaskara. Then drop the hips and then take your palms to the last rib of the rib cage and raise the chest off the mat. This is your Bhujangasana or the cobra. Then curl your toes under and lift yourself up. Sorry. Let me show you from the Ashtanga Namaskara, then Cobra. And then lift yourself up, curl the toes under, and then lift the hips towards the ceiling, lengthen along your legs, and put both the palms on the mat as well as your feet on the mat. Initially, your feet may be off the mat. As you keep doing the asana slowly, you will be able to then later, after a few months, put the both feet down. And then drop your knees to the ground and then bring your right leg in between your palms and left knee is down, and look up. And here too, the knee shouldn't be like this and cross the shin. It should be perpendicular to the mat at a 90-degree angle. And then lift yourself up in the runner's pose, like as though you are going to run, and then bring the left leg forward, and you are in the forward bend. And then inhale, raise yourself up and look above by making an arch in your spine, backward bend. And then exhaling, come to the heart center. So this is Surya Namaskar for the right leg. Now we'll do for the left leg. So inhale, backward bend, forward bend, Pada Hastasana. Take your left leg behind, put the left knee down and bend at the right knee and look up. This is your Ashwa Sanchalana. Then take the right leg behind, drop your hips down and look straight. This is your plank. Knees down, bringing your head towards the mat, child's pose, and then drop the chest to the mat with the hips raised. This is your Ashtanga Namaskara. This is your Cobra. This is your downward facing dog. And then bring your left foot forward and putting your right knee to the mat and bend at the left knee perpendicular to the mat. This is your Ashwa Sanchalana. Then forward bend Pada Hastasana. Then backward bend your Ardha Chakrasana. Then exhaling, hands to the heart center. So this is your one Surya Namaskar. We did it for the right leg and the left leg. So you can learn the pose first, then integrate the breath, and then increase the number of counts. Now I'm going to pass the screen to Shashi, and he's going to explain how this type of exercise is good for heart health.
So I would go back to the full screen view. If you click on the presentation, it should come up as a full screen. That was an excellent presentation of how to do Surya Namaskara. Kusuma, that's great. So, Surya Namaskara incorporates so many asanas together, and it is a full benefit to the whole body. It helps to maintain the cardiovascular health.
There's no audio. 1 second.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think the audio was off.
Yeah, now it should come.
Okay.
Yes, we were not able to hear.
Okay, sorry. I think the audio was on the headphones. Now we switched it. Everybody can hear? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So I would switch back to the presentation mode. And if you click on the presentation, that should pop up on your screen. So that was an excellent presentation of how to do Surya Namaskara Kusuma. Great. So what are the benefits of Surya Namaskara? It has so many asanas incorporated into it, and it is a whole body asana. It helps to maintain cardiovascular health, stimulates the nervous system because you're bending forward, going backwards, helps in stretching, flexing, toning all the muscles. It's also an excellent exercise for weight loss management because doing one asana, it takes so many asanas. If you do like 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening, and keep on increasing it, you're going to burn some calories on these asanas. And it strengthens the immune system, it enhances and sharpens your mind, and improves the overall health. And when you do the deep breathing in and out with the synchronized body motions, this keeps the blood oxygenated. You're taking deep breaths, the oxygenation in your lungs goes well, and then the blood is circulating all over the body, and it reduces the toxins in your body. It gets rid of the toxins and detoxifies the body, and because of this, the blood pressure is also controlled. And if you perform Surya Namaskara daily and stretch your abdominal muscles, you decrease the weight around the waist area. There's actually been studies which have shown that weight around the abdominal area and the waist is directly linked to cardiac health and heart disease. So it's very important to work on decreasing your what is called the abdominal obesity. And regular practice of this asana increases the blood circulation all in the entire body. It massages your internal organs and promotes overall health. This diagram shows the baroreceptor reflex. Just to explain this concept, we have sensors in your body, like the Tesla car has all the sensors. We have sensors in your body, and the baroreceptors are located in the aorta, the big tube which comes out of the heart, as well as along the neck arteries. And they help to maintain a normal blood pressure throughout the day. So let's say the blood volume in the tube, the aorta, increases, the receptors or the sensor detect it and sends a signal to the brain, the brainstem or the medulla oblongata. That's what the name of the brainstem structure is called. And it fires back and sends impulses back to the heart, and it reduces the heart rate. When the heart rate reduces, the blood volume reduces and the blood pressure is maintained. So this happens every second, every minute, so that we have a sort of a steady blood pressure in our body and to maintain homeostasis. So, I mean, do you just believe me and saying it helps? No, because they have done studies, and this is a recent study, one such study which came out in the Mayo research paper called Mayo Clinical Proceedings. This was on February 28, 2019. And actually the Reuters Health, which is a press release, they released a statement based off this study stating that adults who practice yoga with breathing and relaxation exercises at least 3 times a week may lower the blood pressure than people who don't. For this study, they took about 3,500 participants. This is a meta-analysis. A lot of trials were done. They took all this meta-analysis, all the trials, and made it into one big study. And these people were typically middle-aged, men and women are overweight and who had high blood pressure or close to developing the condition. And after doing yoga 3 times a week and including pranayama, including the breathing and relaxation techniques, they discovered that it can decrease your blood pressure by approximately 10 points, 11 millimeters of mercury on the systolic and 6 millimeters on diastolic. Think about it. You know, a lot of us have a little bit of a higher blood pressure and we go to the doctors and we measure it and they say, you know, do this, do that, or go on medications. If you have a borderline elevated blood pressure, if you do lifestyle modification, start doing yoga, and you can actually reduce it by 10 points. Or people who are already on blood pressure medications and they're trying to get it down to the normal level, if you incorporate yoga, you can reduce your blood pressure. I'm a big proponent of yoga and I try to incorporate it in my daily routine. Of course, I don't do it as rigorously as I should, but after going through all the data, I feel very strongly that yoga is a very good exercise regimen, or doing yoga 3 times or 4 times a week is very important. But the caveat is, even in the study, they say that be careful. You know, not every yoga fits everybody. Look at your physical limitations and your medical conditions. Get a qualified instructor to teach you, and maybe, you know, what works for one person does not work for the other person. And so Dr. Mrs. Kusuma showed about the chair yoga and standing yoga. So whichever works for you, you know, do that kind of yoga. That is very important so that you don't get hurt. The other risk factor is cholesterol, and of course, you know, yoga helps reducing cholesterol. It By doing yoga, you reduce your stress level and it decreases the stress hormones, and when you do that, it reduces your cholesterol. It stimulates the endocrine system. Dr. Anil will go over the endocrine system in the next presentation, and you know, this in turn helps you lose weight. It builds stamina, it gives you vitality and vigor so that you can go about your daily activity, you know, so that you are less sedentary. You know, it stretches and massages your abdominal organs, which in turn stimulates all your organs. The liver is, you know, located right here, and that's what is responsible for the cholesterol metabolism, and it helps reduce cholesterol and it removes the toxins and the waste material. Now I'm going to hand it back to Ms. Kusuma again to go over the breathing techniques.
So last time we did some pranayama practices, and during that time I told you that there are many nadis in the human body, but these three nadis are the important ones: the Pingala, Ida, and Sushumna. The Pingala nadi, that goes through your right nostril, and Ida, it goes through your left nostril, and Sushumna, which goes along your spinal cord, and it terminates in your eyebrow center, that is in between your eyebrows. So the so the goal of the pranayam is always to balance the breath between your Ida and Pingala and make you breathe through this Sushumna nadi. So then it reduces all your stress, and it is very useful for many other health benefits. So the benefits of pranayam is smooth rhythmic breathing with healthy lungs, strong lung muscles, good for seasonal allergies and asthma patient, reduces stress, controls the blood pressure in turn, which is good for the heart. And it also is good for your mental health because it controls your thoughts, emotions, and it's a great tool to maintain good mental health. And so last month in the January session, we learned about 1:2 breathing. That is, exhalation should be always longer than the inhalation. The abdominal breathing, like when you are exhaling, you utter the word ah. And for the thoracic breathing, while exhaling, you utter the word you, oo. And for the clavicular breathing, you utter the word And the whole yogic breathing, you, while exhaling, you utter all the three sounds, ah, oo, and So today, if anybody has doubts about this, they can go to the RKS Facebook page, and you have the first session there, and we have the instructions on how to do this. And today I'm going to teach you right nostril breathing, left nostril breathing, and alternate nostril breathing. This is very useful, especially in controlling of your blood pressure. So for that, we use a mudra called Nasika Mudra. So you have your palm. So take your index finger and your middle finger and bring them to your palm, and only your thumb, ring finger, and your pinky is open. So this is your Nasika Mudra. So your index finger and your middle finger is close towards the palm, and your thumb, ring finger, and your pinky is open. So this is called Nasika Mudra. So this thumb always is used for closing your right nostril, and this pinky and your ring finger is used to close your left nostril. So first, in order to do the alternate nostril breathing, let's first try to do right nostril breathing, left nostril breathing. So then you will know how to breathe through both the nostrils when one is closed. And then I'll teach you the technique of alternate nostril. So now close your left nostril with your pinky and your ring finger. So now inhalation and exhalation will happen through your right nostril. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. So both inhalation and exhalation is happening through your right nostril. So maybe we'll do another 2 counts. Now let's see how to breathe through only the left nostril. So now close the right nostril with your thumb and inhale, exhale. Both of them are happening through your left nostril. So let us do 2 or 3 more counts. So you saw the breath, how it can happen through your right and left. Now we'll do the alternate nostril breathing. That is the Nadi Shuddhi Pranaya. So for right nostril breathing, actually people who have heart issues and blood pressure issues, they should not do too much. So 5 counts is okay. And for left nostril breathing, those who have little anxiety and those who are overweight shouldn't do it. But 5 counts won't matter. So that's why I told you to do 5 counts of each for right and left nostril. Whereas alternate nostril breathing, anybody can do this. So that's why it's a very good practice. So there are no limitations for this. So now hold in the Nasika Mudra. And now here one point you should remember is you inhale through one nostril, exhalation always happens through the opposite nostril. So now let's close the left nostril. So now breathe through your right nostril. And now close your right nostril and exhale through your left nostril. Now again inhale through your left nostril, close the left nostril, open the right nostril and exhale. Inhale, close the right, open left and exhale. Then inhale to the same left, close left, exhale through your right. So remember that exhalation is always opposite. Now, inhale through right, exhale through left, inhale through left, exhale through right, inhale through right, exhale through left. So you can do like maybe initially start with 5 and then increase, and maybe you can do few times. And so this, anybody can do this. So the only point to remember is when you inhale through one nostril, you're exhaling through the opposite nostril, and then you're inhaling through the same nostril and exhaling through the opposite nostril. So exhalation is always happening opposite. So that's why it's known as alternate nostril breathing. So this is really a good breathing pranayam, which can be done by anybody, and it is very good for stress relief and to decrease your blood pressure. Now I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Shashi. He's going to tell you the benefits from the medical standpoint of view.
So pranayama is very important. One second, let me go to the previous slide. So she just showed you the alternate nostril breathing, and it's very important to do pranayama in addition to the asanas which you do, because it helps you with your heart rate and blood pressure. It lowers the stress and improves the cardiovascular function. It improves your lung capacity and respiratory endurance so that you can do your asanas. It lowers your heart rate. And it's important to lower your heart rate because remember, the heart is beating from the beginning of life to end. And the lesser it beats, the less oxygen it uses, it's better. In fact, just as a side note, a lot of these high competitive athletes like LeBron James, they live at a very low heart rate. They live at around 38, 40. So when they're on the basketball courts or whatever sport they're in, they can increase their activity level to a very high level. And overall, it actually promotes well-being because all your organs are getting perfused or getting a lot of blood flow. So I just quote one study just to show this fact, and this was in the International Journal of Yoga in India, and it effect of fast and slow pranayama on the perceived stress and cardiovascular parameters in young healthcare students. And it demonstrated that there's different kinds of pranayamas, and we haven't gone deeply into it, and she will go into that. There's a slow pranayama and a fast pranayama, but the slow pranayama, it actually helps not only just reducing stress, but you can actually measure the physiological parameters and see that it's your blood pressure decreases, your heart rate decreases, and it can be done by everybody, whereas the faster pranayamas is more suitable for people with a stable cardiovascular function. So I'm just going to, actually, another side note is that, Hillary Clinton, during her presidency and during her presidency run and when she was secretary, she practices this alternate nostril breathing to bring calm and balance to her life, especially when she was giving the speeches or stressed about doing things. So just to finish in the end, I'm going to give some take-home points. Taking care of one's health, especially the cardiovascular health, is very important because of the statistics which I showed you earlier. The risk factors: hypertension, high cholesterol, diabetes, stress, obesity, overweight, bad habits, smoking, especially excessive alcohol consumption. These are all the major risk factors for cardiovascular health and heart disease. It is a leading cause of death in men, women, and in most racial and ethnic groups, across groups in the United States. And if you incorporate the practice of yoga and pranayama in your daily routine, it will reduce stress and decrease risk factors which cause the cardiovascular disease. So I just want to end by thanking Mrs. Kusuma for giving me this opportunity to work with her and bring this presentation to you, and to RKS for giving us the platform to bring it to the community. So let's be interactive, and please put on your cameras and ask questions, or send it through the chat, and we'll answer to the best of our ability. Thank you so much for listening. And here is our emails and phone numbers. And the next session will be on March 20th. Make a note of this time and date. And it'll be about yoga chakra system and the endocrine glands. And Mrs. Kusuma and Dr. Anil Kumar will give the presentation. Thank you once again.
Now you can unmute yourself, and if you have any questions or doubts, you can just throw it at us.
Okay.
While they are thinking of some questions, what about people who have a lot of back pain and have gone through back issues? So they can pretty much do all the asanas, but they have to do it in different steps, correct? Like how we showed in the chair.
Yeah, so chair yoga would be a better option for them initially while starting. So most of the poses of yoga which are done in the traditional way can be modified and done on a chair too, but it might not look like the traditional pose, but it still gives the same benefit when you do the pose in the traditional way too. So the same benefit is being given to the person who is doing in the chair. So the same muscles, the same organ systems are working.
And so the final pose is not important. It's the whole process of doing the yoga. It gives you the same benefit, and after a while you can do more and more as you go along. Is that correct?
That's what I told. So final pose is not the important thing always. So for you, like you are putting the effort and doing the asana. So for you, for your limitation and your practice level, that is actually the final pose. So a person who has been practicing for a long while and who is flexible, for them, if they touch the floor, that is their final pose. So final pose concept is actually not the things you see in advertisements and stuff where you have people who are thin and blonde and it can twist and turn however they want. That is not the real yoga. So the real yoga is on what muscle it acts on and what organ systems are being involved in that. So anybody can reap the benefit, whether sitting in a chair or taking the wall as the support. So modifications can be done with props and stuff, and you can still get the same benefit.
I think that is very important point. A lot of people get frustrated because they can't do it well, but it's the whole process of doing it, because I think it perfuses or increases the blood supply to all the organs. That's important. The other question I had, is there I know you said you can do it time, but a lot of people are on blood pressure medication. Sorry, there was some static. A lot of people are on blood pressure medications. Is there a particular time you can do the yoga, or should we just not worry about it too much? Does it matter?
If you have blood pressure issues, the only point you have to note is whenever you're doing a forward bend, don't take your head below your knees.
Okay.
So always keep your upper body parallel to the ground or the mat. So if you are putting your head down, then all the blood will get directed towards your heart and your brain. So that puts a lot of strain on your heart. So instead of that, as I showed you in the walk, like you can always just be parallel to the floor and keep your hands to the shoulder level. So you need not have to bend all the way in.
That makes sense, because when you come up, your blood pressure.
So Shashi and Kusuma, this is Anil.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is a wonderful session. Actually, it was very informative, and all the slides, I think it was great. And we did actually learn a lot from this session too. But I have actually, I think Ramesh also has probably posed a question on the chat. You can probably answer that in terms of exhalation, inhalation. That is one question. But I have also in general questions in terms of can you tell in terms of like, the sequence in terms of doing the yoga followed by breathing? That's number one question. The second question is, and in between yoga, like, how much time that you recommend before or after eating? And the third one is relaxation of yoga with the shavasana. If you can comment on those three.
Okay, so for the breathing part, I told you in the beginning, but I'll tell it to you again. So the breathing always for the asanas where you are going to bend back and lift your head and look towards the ceiling, those are called as backward bends. So because there will be arch in your spine, so your upper body will be bent back. So for those asanas, you have to inhale. So like the backward bend, the Ardha Chakrasana, then your cobra pose, the Bhujangasana. So those are all backward bends. So for that, whenever you're doing the pose, when you're bending backwards, you inhale and go back. And when you're bending forward, it's going to be exhale. So all exhalations happen when you bend your upper body towards the mat or towards the floor. So that is the important part to note. So you yourself, when you're doing the asana, you can see whether you are bending backwards or whether you're, it depends on the backward bend of the spine, whether your spine is bent backwards or is the spine bending forward. So depending on those position, if its spine is bent backwards, forming an arch, then you do the inhalation. And when your spine is bent to forward and you're actually rounding the spine and it's pointing towards the ceiling, that is your forward bend and that is exhalation. And usually better to eat your meals before 3 to 4 hours before you do the yogasana. So suppose you have your lunch around 1 o'clock, then give 3 or 4 hours gap and then do the asana in the evening. Or in the morning, you can just have like a cup of tea or coffee and give yourself half an hour to 45 minutes time and then do the asana on the empty stomach. So having a heavy food, and if you do the asana, when you are doing asanas, sometimes what happens if the abdomen gets pressed, like you will feel as though you are going to throw up. The food is, the abdomen presses and it makes you feel that as though the food is going back towards the esophagus and you are going to throw up. Or you might get some burps. So you can then taste the food in your esophagus. So it's always better to give yourself 3 to 4 hours time after you have a heavy meal. So if you have tea and coffee, like just you can give around 45 minutes to an hour gap. And what was the last part?
Anil, what was
The first one, I think you answered. The second one was wanted to ask you the sequence of yoga versus pranayama or pranayama versus yoga.
Oh, okay.
And
Because
the second sub question is whether you had to do like shavasana or relaxation in between.
yeah, actually, according to the Patanjali's 8 limbs, asana or the yoga poses come first because they want you to first energize yourself and energize the body. And then once you're a little physically fit, then want to incorporate the breath. So always the yoga poses come first and then comes the pranayam practice. And then for shavasana, like you have for after Surya Namaskar, it's a must to do shavasana like 3 to 5 minutes. And after the entire yoga poses, before starting pranayam, to do the shavasana for at least 5 to 5 minimum 5 minutes.
I like that. It's very easy one to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's also important once you have increased your heart
Heart
rate,
rate,
doing
yeah,
all the
that is-
asanas, but in Shavasana,
Yeah.
you sort of slow everything
Thing
down,
down.
and it comes back to what is called homeostasis or,
Yeah, that's why after the yoga poses to do the Shavasana and then bring down your heart rate and then do the pranayama. And then after pranayama, then you can do the meditation. So that is the order or the sequence.
Dr. Nagesh, any questions?
I have a question. Given the holistic approach to medicine, is your hospital offering any yoga or meditation to patients? I know at least for the Veterans Health System offers yoga and meditation and pranayama techniques to the patients. There is an instructor, and they also started offering to employees and free of cost. Is there something which more and more hospitals are incorporating into their practice?
I think that's a very good question. I think it is important to do so, and it's not caught up yet because I'm sure for monetary and lack of insurance payment reasons. But I think we are going more towards the holistic approach because a lot of the chronic conditions which we have, we don't have any treatments for them. And especially now with, yoga is showing that in cancer patients is really helping them a lot too with pain control and other things. So, I mean, at least from my standpoint, yoga is a very important aspect. It's about 3,000, 4,000 years old. And after, Swami Vivekananda introduced it in the late 1890s or 1900s, it's boomed everywhere. Everywhere there's a yoga place to do. I think everybody knows that it is important. We just need to get it done. And I think all of us working together, it's important to bring this message to the community.
And another question in a similar line. Have you, in your practice, have you seen any patient who is on a lot of anti-hypertensive medication, that is a blood pressure medication? Some of them, I see them 3 or 4 medications along with diabetes medicines. Have you seen personally any patient who can come down on the blood pressure medications, or do you think it is possible to wean some of the medications with these, incorporating this into their regular health?
Yeah, I think, blood pressure is a very big deal. We deal with it every time. I always talk about exercises, yoga, medication to all the patients. If you're on a multiple medication, it's hard to wean off. But if you're borderline or you're on just one medication, maybe just doing yoga, reducing your salt and, losing weight